All right, good afternoon, committee. And we were late on the floor, so I know some 1:30 committees were meeting, and so they should be wrapping things up. And so apologies for those that will be arriving as they can. Looks like we've turned more into Washington all the time with Mondays and Fridays, not much going on. And if you've ever watched C-SPAN or some of these committees, it's like one person in the chair. In some of these hearings doesn't mean that, they're not part of the record. So before we get on to our informational briefing, we will, this is kind of a precursor to tomorrow. Tomorrow we will have a hearing on House Bill 2168. It is allowing some hemp fiber grain seed used as food for livestock, poultry, pets, exempting some process of fingerprinting and background checks and so on. So again, House Bill 2168, if you want to if you haven't done any pre-work on that, I think we have a lot of folks lining up. If not to testify in person, we will have a lot of testimony in writing as well. And then also on Thursday, yes, normally it's a call of the chair, but if you can stick around, we were having an informational briefing on that dairy study. Last year, the Appropriations Committee approved $250,000, I believe, or $350,000 to study the dairy industry in Kansas, and that is now finished, and they will be doing a briefing on that tomorrow, and I believe some folks from the dairy industry will be here. If we have questions from the dairy farmers, they'll at least be in the audience. That's kind of the plan. So I also want to remind you that the Sunflower Commission released their annual report. So it is in the S drive, is that correct? You emailed it to them, okay. And also, if you would review the minutes of February 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 20th, as well as the 24th of February, so basically almost the whole month of February. If you have questions, let us know. If not, we will assume they are passed. All right, so this today is something that we was going to do last year, and the chairman kind of dropped the ball. Time got away from us, but we want to get an update on basically kind of the state of the hemp industry, and no one probably better than our one that we've invited. Melissa Nelson Baldwin is from the Great Bend area, and she is here to kind of give us an update of what's going on. She does have, we won't call them props, but she does have, we call them on the floor props, if you use something, but she's got some different things that we passed around that are hemp products, I believe, and she will be talking kind of what's going on, what's working, what some of the challenges are, and she also is going to give her thoughts on the bill tomorrow, because she will not be able to be here tomorrow due to she has some international guests. So with that, Melissa, the floor is yours.
I have spoken to farmers literally all over the country and the world. I have yet to speak at the State House, so thank you for the opportunity to come here. Honestly, I'm glad it didn't work out last year because we have grown so much in 365 days that I'm happy to present what we have today and what we're doing here. So, South Bend Industrial Hemp presenting on the state of the hemp industry in Kansas. First, I'd like to introduce myself and my team because I think that's critical to understanding the success that we're having here in Kansas. My name is Melissa Nelson. I'm a crop research scientist in Central Kansas. I have my own research facility, and what I do is I work with clients from all over the world to develop products, their varieties, and new avenues for fertilizers, biologicals, et cetera, and take their product to eventually get submitted to the EPA. So that's my role and my background. Aaron Baldwin, my husband, is here, fourth generation farmer, Circle K Farms. He helps market and merchant all our grain and just the day-to-day operations of the farm. We have Richard Baldwin, my brother-in-law, also fourth generation farmers, Circle K Farms. He handles all our machinery, irrigation maintenance, and day-to-day operations on the farm, as well as helping manage the processing facility. Another piece that is extremely important to our team, I couldn't be here today because someone has to keep the ship upright while we're away, is Dodge Elligood. He is our facility processing manager. We started processing hemp in 2021, and so he has really taken that by the horns and really has been the lifeblood of that facility and has ran over 1.5 million pounds through the processing facility this past year. Lastly, we have Steve and Kyle Schrader. They are independent agronomists and they work for our farm. They help consult with growers all over the country, just encouraging sound agricultural practices, really focused on regenerative methods and helping maximize the crop for the farmer's yield potential. So I was hesitant about putting this slide in here because it seems like very basic knowledge. But after a short few conversations that I've had in my hour here at the Capitol, it's important, okay? So there's a lot of confusion. Hemp and industrial hemp cannabis is a very emotionally charged plant. And there's a lot of misconceptions. And what makes me so passionate about sharing these misconceptions is because I was one of those people back in 2018 when this was first getting approved to grow. My husband and my brother-in-law, they brought the idea to me, let's come together, create South Bend Industrial Hemp. And I was like, no, I don't do drugs. That's not my thing. And they said, no, just read about it, learn more. And since that, you'll see that we're definitely all in from there. So let's take it down to something that is more tangible, to something you're familiar with. You walk into the grocery store, okay? You're in the vegetable aisle and you're looking at the peppers, and you've got bell peppers and you've got jalapeno peppers. Those are two very different types of peppers. That's how cannabis is. You have cannabis up here and you have hemp and you have marijuana. Those are two very different types of cannabis, separated by the 0.3% THC. Today, we're going to focus on the fiber and grain side of things because that is really where hemp is prime for success here in Kansas and what these numbers are going to support that I'm going to show you. A little bit of growing history. I think this is important to cover. It's a short history of South Bend Industrial Hemp and our farm in Great Bend, Kansas, because how do you trust somebody if they haven't thrown their hat in the ring? And so in 2019, that was the first year that you could grow hemp. We did 80 acres of fiber grain production. When I tell you that we did everything wrong, we left no stone unturned, okay? We planted at the wrong timing. We had the wrong seed. You can ask the KDA when they came and toured our field. It was a train wreck. So naturally, we said, let's do it again. And in 2020, we threw our hat in the ring again. We applied for another license, but we learned from our mistakes. We were extremely successful. We got the right seed. We got the right timing. We moved it to irrigation and away from the dry land just because it was one less factor that we didn't have to rely on Mother Nature to control for us. Success. We started getting national recognition. We started having people fly in to see what we were doing and learn more about our operation and how we were doing that. At the end of 2021, just like most hemp farmers, we experienced we had no place to sell our product. And what's sad is we did everything right. At the beginning of the season, we had the contract before we put the seed in the ground, everything that we preach to farmers to do. And 30 days before harvest, I called our processor, or I thought was our processor, and I said, hey, we're ready. Tell me what you need. Just want to confirm your harvesting, technicalities, etc. And he said, oh, I forgot to call you. I didn't get the funding. I don't have a processing facility. And it was such a sinking day, and it really drives me every day to make sure no farmer that works with us will ever feel like that. So at that point, we were really at a crossroads. It was one of those where we needed to get out because we now had 2 potentially unsuccessful years, or we needed to go all in and be the solution to our problem. So we decided to go all in and open a processing facility. At that time, we had farmers reaching out to us saying, hey, we would grow if we had a place to take it. We had manufacturers calling us saying, where are you taking it to process? We want to purchase it. So opening the processing facility, we did. In 2021, we did 110 acres of irrigated fiber and grain, 40 acres of dryland grain. We opened our processing facility, and we contracted 1,000 acres throughout the Midwest. That in turn turned into 2022, where we did 300 acres growing, and we contracted 1,900 acres throughout the Midwest. We also do variety trials, and over the past 4 years have grown over 30 different varieties on our farm. We very much are a evidence-based practice. We don't refer anything to our farmers that we haven't tried ourselves. We really are a data-driven facility. So understanding the end goal, and it's really important that within those bell peppers, we had those colors, okay? We are focused on fiber and grain. And 95%, according to the KDA's website and the report that they published at the end of December in 2022, 95% of all licenses last year were grain, fiber, dual purpose, or seed stock production for fiber. Okay, so you can see the trend of the industry is moving away from cannabinoid production, mainly because of pricing, and you've seen the horror stories of the cannabinoid industry. But on the other note, this is where farmers can really be successful. With our operations and what we're already doing, we can thrive, and I'll show you how we're doing it. So let's look at the numbers. As you guys can see and what I've talked about earlier, the numbers that we contracted throughout the Midwest, we work with farmers all the way from South Dakota down to Oklahoma, over to Missouri, and even eastern Colorado to bring it in. And you can draw a picture and you can say, well, that's not economical to travel that far with hemp bales, et cetera. But here's the deal. When you have a passion for something, you're going to figure out a way to make it work. One of the things that we have as well is a trucking company, so we will use hemp as backhauls. We can haul pipe up to South Dakota and bring back bales. That's going to help with the cost effectiveness for the farmer. So in 2020, and I'm really proud of these numbers that I'm about to present to you, there was 1,095 acres reported to be licensed through the KDA. Of those, 480 acres were also contracted to South Bend Industrial Hemp. So these were farmers that were growing specifically for us and a part of our growers group. So 43% of all acres at that time were South Bend Industrial Hemp acres. We then had 844 acres, according to the state report, that were planted. 558 of those acres were South Bend Industrial Hemp acres. And you can see that dropped from 480. That is because a farmer in McCracken, Kansas had only 1 inch of rain throughout the winter, so he didn't have the moisture to grow any crops last year. So he did not move forward with planting. Harvesting, you can see the numbers dropped again. 533 acres made it to harvest. Of those, 418 were South Bend Industrial Hemp contracted acres, which is 78% of those acres are coming to our facility in Great Bend. So now let's take a moment and let's look at those South Bend Industrial Hemp contract numbers. We had a 91% success rate from the 558 acres planted to the 418 acres harvested. That's pretty dang good. For a new crop and farmers starting to get their feet underneath them and really understand it, they've bought into our growers group, they've bought into our production and what we're doing and are seeing success. I can justify the 62 acres that were not successful. They were dryland acres in western Kansas. They did not receive rainfall and it was a crop fail. So if you exclude what Mother Nature took out for us, we had a 100% success rate for every acre that was grown and contracted through South Bend Industrial Hemp. Now, it's not enough in farming to get across the finish line. With a crop, you have to be profitable within those acres as well. So let's look at the numbers, okay? I'm going to give you 3 examples of farmers through different areas of the state. This farmer was in South Central Kansas. He had 4 inches of rain from the day of planting to the day of final harvest. For retrospect, if you're not from that area, we typically get around 18 to 20 inches of rain during the growing season during that time. So very dry. You can see with these numbers, and this was supposed to be sent out to you guys via email if you wanted to look at it more closely, but I have all of our farmers turn in their expenses. So I know exactly how profitable they were, et cetera. That's part of our program because it helps us be better stewards as processors and be better for our farmers in terms of recommendations, et cetera. So this farmer, even with 4 inches of rain and a 1.5 ton an acre yield, profited $12.72 an acre. Now you might be saying, that's not gonna buy me much, and I agree. But I do know that he had 100% crop fail on corn, milo, and soybeans. So this was the only thing that he was able to take to harvest. You can see these pictures here. The hemp is about a tire height, which is approximately 6 feet. Weed control is very well, and he's just a very good farmer in his area. Mother Nature was not on his side. Now let's take our numbers and go into central Kansas. This is a 90-acre field that was grown. They averaged 4.5 ton an acre. You can see the numbers again. Profiting was $692 an acre. Significantly better, they had 12 inches of rain. Okay, so just with the increase of rain of 8 inches in the location, you're nearly tripling your yield, and your potential for profit is, 10 times higher. So the potential for hemp in terms of fiber and grain is there from a farming perspective. You can see this here. This farmer is laying down. It's as tall as a tractor cab. That's actually our tractor in our field and what we're doing here. Again, agricultural focus. The last example that I'm going to show you today is farmer number 3 in northeast Kansas, north central, kind of Washington, Kansas area. This farmer ended up averaging 6.5 tons an acre on dry land ground, and it turned into a profit of $1,114.96 an acre. Now, if you're not directly tied into the agricultural industry or have acres of your own, these numbers are just arbitrary. So I decided to compare it to other crops that are normally grown. Let's look at conventional crops like soybeans, corn, and hemp, because hemp is a summer or is a crop that you're going to plant in the spring and harvest in the summer. Look at your net income. We've highlighted that at the bottom. We're blowing those other crops out of the water. This is exciting to see, because when you look at this, you can see your chemical costs are reduced, your fertilizer costs are reduced. Yes, you're going to have some raking and swathing and baling, but overall, your net income is better due to your reduced inputs. Money's tight this year. You guys know that at every level. Operating budgets, CFA notes within farming operations are going to be pushed to the max. There are farmers in our area that have already maxed out their notes, and it's only March 14th. That's scary. So we have to find crops that have lower inputs that are going to help diversify those farms, be another tool in the toolbox. Hemp is not the answer to everything, and we're not looking for it to be the answer to everything. Hemp should be a tool within that farming operation to help break up crop rotations and bring in other income sources. That's how we view hemp. Hemp is a business opportunity and a piece of our puzzle. So let's move to the South Bend Industrial Hemp Processing. So we've taken care of the farming side of things. You've seen the profit and the margins and the potential from the farmer's point of view. Now let's look at the processing. This is one of the largest endeavors that I've ever done, along with the guys. We've never been processors. We didn't know what it was all entailed. We've learned everything as we've gone. This machine is a United States machine. It's out of Monte Vista, Colorado. We very proudly try to spend our money as local as possible. There are other hemp processors in Canada as well as France that have machines like this. But again, we try to keep our dollars close to home. Now, a lot of the questions that we get are, how do you pay your farmers? This is our contract that we have with farmers. This is all contracted before it goes in the ground. This allows the seller of the hemp bales to understand our payout rubric. It's based on tonnage, so if you've ever sold hay, it's the same concept. Here's what gets me excited, though. Let's talk economic development. And I know this is an ag committee, but at the same time, the amount of money that flows within these rural communities is dying. Look at hospitals getting shut down, schools being consolidated, etc. We need to find a way to rejuvenate some of that income in these smaller communities, and hemp can be an answer to that. With the processing facilities, we believe in more of a regional approach, kind of like co-ops. You see elevators all over, every 10, 20 miles, or at least a few every county. Hemp needs to be the same way. We need to have hemp processing facilities within 50 to 100 miles. Kansas is lucky enough that we have 4 agricultural processors, one in Larned, Kansas, one in Mayetta, Kansas, one in Augusta, and then ourselves in Great Bend, which is really a good operation. Ideally, we would have one more in western Kansas to help service those farmers that are out that way. In 2022, we paid out over $100,000 to our farmers to grow for us. This was at $225 a ton. These are competitive numbers. As you've seen, in order for them to convert those hemp acres or those corn and soybean acres over to hemp, we had to be competitive and we had to have an incentive for farmers to do so. On top of just normal healthy farming practices, you have to be profitable and keep the doors open. So $100,000 paid out to farmers in 2022. Based upon our contracts in 2023, we're looking to pay out approximately $316,000 to farmers within Nebraska, Kansas, and Missouri. Let's talk employment. Labor is an issue. We have actually been very blessed with entry-level position jobs and have been able to fill those. We run 2 shifts of 3 people, 6 days a week. So we run 16 hours a day. Entry-level payroll, we've been able to do just over $52,000 within our community. On the managerial level, so it's 2 teams of 3. The manager position, we pay $54,000. We've paid out over $54,000. So we've put $107,000 back into young people within our community. Our average age of workers at the facilities is 22. Again, giving young people an opportunity in a rural setting to come back to these smaller communities and have a successful operation, employment, etc. This is what really gets me excited, tourism. Just in 2022 alone, we did 92 tours at our facility. We had 742 people approximately. I'm pretty good at keeping track of everybody that runs through, but 742 people that have came through our operation to look at our hemp. Of those, 33 states have came in and we've had 5 countries. According to the Great Bend Economic Development Bureau statistics, the 2 adults spending 2 days in Great Bend is $563.40, and that's in hotels, fuel, rental cars, etc. So that's $209,000 we've generated just for Great Bend. And if they've driven in, which I'm sure most of them have, they've had to stop along the way before they get there. Snacks, fuel, etc. Entertainment, seeing what Kansas has to offer. That number excites me. That's going directly back into my friends and family's businesses within the local community. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about product potential. You can see there in the red, the potential for growth within the hemp industry and within the products is large. You guys know that. You've heard that quite a few times. And so let me kind of show you a little bit of the products that we have, and then I'm going to quickly switch over to the limitations and 2168 and what we need from you guys in order to continue to be successful. So at first I'm going to cover the fiber parts. So this plant, when it comes into us and comes in round bales, and our machine basically divides up and separates and sizes the fiber, which is this outside material here, and the hurd, which is the inside material here. Both of those are sent to manufacturers. Manufacturers wanting hurd need 99% fiber free. Those of you wanting fiber need 99% hurd free. So in order for us to be a viable option to those manufacturers, our size and sorting process has to be very accurate. So this is the crop as it is. This is the fiber as it comes out of our machine. You can feel it here. I don't love those jokes that oh, we can smoke it. There's no THC in these. We picked these varieties in order for our farmers to feel safe and secure as they grow these and know that they're going to not have to worry about a hot crop. So that's the fiber. Within that fiber, there's a lot of different options that you can do. We chase the non-woven market, so we are not growing for Patagonia or high-end textile clothing. That's not our market. We are more for rope or bedding or nesting material, etc. So this is 100% hemp rope. If we change our hemp fiber variety, we can go for more of a textile market Again, there's people on the East Coast in North Carolina that are already very well versed in this space, and so that's not an avenue that we've chosen to go down. But these are hemp fabrics, locally or made within the USA. The next part that I think is really exciting is your bioplastics and 3D printing. You guys hear about that more and more. This is actually a filament that is 50% hemp, 50% corn. It is a college group out of Nebraska called Hemp Vision that uses this to create sunglasses, chessboards, etc. 50% hemp, 50% corn. Very sustainable. So now we've talked, do you have a question? Are you okay?
The 50/50, is that waste products of the corn and hemp?
Waste products of the corn, there's no waste products in hemp. We can actually, there can be in corn, but it's not really waste if you find a use for it, is it?
I guess you started there, so I'm not.
No, you're okay. I mean, I've had to take quite a different approach. I can sell the dust. From our facility, we sell the dust to ceramic tile manufacturers. We use every part of the hemp plant, and there's zero waste that comes out of our facility, minus the net wrap that holds that bale together. So now we move into hurd. You guys have seen the potential for fiber and what we can do there. There's two main hurd sizes that we sell. This is the medium grade hemp hurd, and then this is micronized. You can see it's very fluffy. It's went through a different process. This is going to be turned into like pellets, your bioplastics, etc. This is going to be moved towards insulation, woodwork, and a lot of other products. The hurd can also be pelletized. This is actually hurd being used for a heat stove. Okay, so same as your corn stove, etc. You can open it up, you can smell it, you can tell that there's no hemp smell or anything like that. If anybody's looking to redo their housing, this is your hemp flooring. This is a company out of Kentucky. It's tongue and groove, so you just pop it in just like any other wood flooring that you have, different finishes, etc. 100% hemp, minus the resin. And then the last product that I kind of brought today, this is insulation. You have a lot of natural builders. This is continuing to move forward as you hear more about sustainability and health. A lot of people are finding toxic building materials, etc., and are looking to move away from that. So this is made with our hemp hurd, lime, and water. And then they just put a natural plaster that is colored from minerals, and that is your coating to seal it and create the wall. So 100% natural. This builder is out of Texas. He does Adobe flooring. Literally top to bottom, his houses are 100% sustainable, carbon negative, and hemp focused.
Before you go into your thoughts on the bill, can you pause maybe if we have questions and all this?
Of course.
So does anybody have any questions right quick? If not, okay, Representative White, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you. Great presentation thus far. How volatile is this 225 a ton? Is that written in stone? I mean, hay prices this year are way up.
Right. So we adjust our prices based on the market. So I could offer $150 a ton, but that farmer is going to laugh me out of the room because why would he convert acres to lose money growing hemp? The processors in Montana, it's very regional. The price is very regional. You know, if the Northeast Kansas processor, he's probably going to have to offer more money because you guys have better yield up here. You have better rain, you've got better soils. And so you kind of have to look at these acres that you're competing against and determine what that price point is. And for us, it's $225 an acre. We offer a $10 premium if they choose to deliver between November and March because it helps stretch out our cash flow. and not have all of those acres and bales come in at one time.
Okay, thank you. And one more, if you may. The stalk is 2 inches, 3 inches. How do you dry that down? I mean, I see a swath, and do you rake it?
So
what's
you're
the
thinking,
moisture of a bale?
Yeah.
Before it starts to get hot?
So you're thinking more CBD when you say 2 to 3 inches. For retrospect, CBD, cannabinoid, they are planting at 3,000 to 5,000 plants per acre. We're planting anywhere from 500,000 to 1.1 million plants per acre. So we're thinking more wheat. So you're not going to achieve those large sizes based upon your planting density. Most of the plants, when they're in at 1,000 plants per acre, so the first stock that you guys had come around, that was planted at 500,000 seeds per acre. This is 1.1 million.
Okay. Right.
So you don't have to worry about that big wear and tear. In terms of drying down, you lay it down, it dries down to 10% moisture. We have a process called retting, which retting is breaking down of pectin. Pectin is the nature's glue that binds the fiber to the herd. And so we let nature do the work for us instead of us doing it at the processing facility. If you leave it on the ground, let it get some dew, and then the heat in the afternoon, you do that anywhere from 5 to 15 days, your bales are ready to bale around 10% moisture.
So is it being cramped through the swather?
Nope, because it hurts the quality of the fiber for our processing facility.
Right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Mosier, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Melissa, for your presentation today. What are the bale weights? What's an average weight of a bale?
Average bale weight for our farmers last year was 993 pounds. We like them to be pretty tight when they come into us. Our bales that we do on our farm are around 1,100. We encourage farmers to have a heavier bale. The biggest thing is it can't be over 6 feet because then it won't fit into our machine to start unwinding.
Okay, and have you found a type of soil where hemp grows better or worse?
Honestly, hemp does great in your lesser producing soils. So think sandy loam. The big problem with your heavier soils, clay, your silts, etc., it doesn't like to be extremely wet when it's a very young. And so as long as you get the plant up, it's going to be good to go. But what we see, hemp thrives in maybe lesser yielding areas for corner beans, such as sand.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep, that's a wall. You can see. Oh yeah, it kind of crumbles a little bit. It's got some miles on it. Let me tell you, it's been around the state a few times.
While we're waiting for, they like that?
Yeah, it's fireproof, mold-proof, and bug-proof.
Okay.
So we've actually had really good work with our insurance agent. He's thrilled with that. We've had our state fire marshal and our local fire marshals out there doing demonstrations with it, et cetera. So there's a lot of promise in terms of insurance, et cetera, and the potential for that.
You talk about, getting hot. We had the discussion the last few years here in this building about the whole situation with cannabis. Growing hemp, how can you keep it from not being hot, or is it too much rain, not enough rain? I mean, what's kind of go through that process, because I know a couple years ago we were out at your place and you had whatever, a half circle, whatever, and what happens if that goes hot? How can you tell, or anything? I guess go through the process to know and how that could happen to have something that's hot and you can't do anything with.
I love this question. It's all breeding. Okay, think about your corn. You've got ethanol-based corn, or that's headed to. It's called Inogen corn. This Inogen corn is bred to have a very high starch content. So when it goes to the ethanol facility, they can maximize that production. Okay, you've got other corn, or let's do wheat. You've got certain wheat varieties that are bred for an increase of protein, and that's why you're growing it, etc. These industrial hemp varieties have been bred to be in a vegetative state for as long as possible, because when the plant is in a vegetative state, it is actively growing. As soon as it's switched to a reproductive stage, it stops growing and it's focused on seed production, or in cannabinoids, it's focused on bud production, et cetera. And so our goal is to get plants that are in a vegetative state as long as possible to increase tonnage. We do third-party testing on all of our stuff just to help monitor that. But with the practice of growing approximately 30 different varieties on our farm, we've also learned the varieties that perform well in this area and have been bred to keep that THC levels low. And so what you have to do is find the right variety for your area. That's what we offer in terms of services when farmers contract at our processing facility. It gives them the reassurance because we purchase the seed for them. We set them up from seed to final sale in order to be successful. And that's the model that we're working with the processing facility in Mayetta. That's the process that the facility down in Augusta is doing, and over in Larned, et cetera. So the focus is low THC plants that are going to stay in a vegetative state. And one thing to kind of think about here, in order for that THC to really rise, et cetera, the plant needs to be producing buds. This specific variety doesn't even make it to flowering by the time we're harvesting. We don't even let it get the opportunity to get hot if it could. There was a lot of scares in the past that the wind would make the THC jump and too much nitrogen would make the THC jump and all of those things. And we've done that testing, and that might be true in a cannabinoid-based plant, but that's not the varieties that we're working with. So in terms of fiber and grain, THC is not a huge problem.
Representative White?
One of your pictures, it looked like a circle, and the corner there was dry land. And I was just wondering, if I want, say, 5 ton an acre, how much water and how much nitrogen does that take?
That's all the way back at the beginning. There you go. If you'll put that back up. So how much water and nitrogen? We are finding that these plants are really optimizing yield, approximately 70% fertilizer programs to your normal corn crop. So we ask most of our growers to pull soil samples prior to the season. There's no need to put more nutrients out there than necessary. For our instance, we'd put on approximately 210 pounds of nitrogen a season for our corn. We're putting on approximately 150 to 160 pounds of nitrogen for our hemp crop. In terms of water, we're going to supplement water approximately 8 inches, like last year when it was very dry. And so total precipitation that we put on our plants is approximately 12 to 13 inches.
Thank you.
Representative Blex?
Thank you for your presentation. We're kind of like kindergartners. It's always nice to have a lot of things we can work with our hands
I love it.
and show. Question, Southeast Kansas has a lot of high humidity. We have roughly 42 inches of rain. That did not happen last year. Will hemp do well for the fiber production in areas of high humidity? I can think of drying down problems, and you may have a lot of rain early, and it's like our cornfields. Once they get wet feet and turn yellow, that's automatically 65 bushel corn, no matter how much nitrogen you put on it. Is hemp similar, or would it do well in Southeast Kansas?
I'm very excited to tell you that when you talk to me in 365 days, we have contractors now, or contracted acres down in Southeast Kansas. So I can give you numbers in a year from now, and they're actually going to put it on rail to get us up to Great Bend. So that'll help with the transportation costs. Theoretically, the plant should be fine. We've grown in heavier soils, the Northeast Kansas, there's humidity up there. Really, when you look at Kansas and how you kind of chunk it up is like Dodge City West, you've got your central Kansas and the water there, and then your eastern Kansas. I know Northeast Kansas can be successful. I don't know why Southeast Kansas would be any different.
As a side note, my son builds those custom swing beds, which are popular in Florida and California, as well as outdoor furniture. And he's in Louisville, Kentucky, and he uses quite a bit of hemp wood. It's inch and a half or so thick and having good results with it as far as the framing and all that structure work.
I love to hear it.
Thank you.
Representative Carlin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, you had a bad year in 2019, but nobody had a good year in 19, probably.
No, we had a good year, and no, we didn't have.
That
a good
was
year
your
in
first
19.
year, you
Yeah,
said.
first year.
And we had a lot of rain that year. Was the rain part of the problem? Because it supposedly is a dry crop, so.
No, and kind of maybe dispel some of that myth that it's a dry crop. It can do okay. It just doesn't like to be in super saturated soils as a seed. But there's not a lot of crops that love to sit in super saturated soils. In 2019, you have to think of risk mitigation, okay? We didn't know what we were doing, and there wasn't many sources that were out there growing for fiber and grain. And so we said, how can we get in this with the least amount of risk possible? So we took a field that we were growing wheat on, and we decided to follow it with hemp because it was going to go fallow anyway. So really the only costs that we had were our licenses, our seed, and then the fuel to put in that product. We didn't make it to harvest, so we didn't have to worry about costs for that. But that was a low risk way for us to get into the industry, get our feet wet, and kind of learn about it. So we planted too late, and we planted the wrong variety.
And you said you were working with 80 acres.
Mm-hmm.
So you have can you share some idea of what your seed cost was for 80 acres? How many do you mind saying? Because I know seed's expensive. I don't know what you were buying, whether it was as expensive as the cannabis seed.
Not as expensive. So one of the fun facts, cannabis for cannabinoids, et cetera, that's sold by the seed. And when you're planting 1 million seeds per acre, it's not really cost effective to be $1 a seed, kind of like cannabinoids are. We're working on pounds. So the cost for seed this year is anywhere from $3.70 to $4 a pound.
Oh, okay, that's a whole lot different.
Yes, and depending on the seed variety, you can have anywhere from 13,000 seeds per pound to 34,000 seeds per pound. So a lot more bang for your buck.
How many pounds do you put on 80 acres?
We ended up planting at 25 pounds per acre, so 80 times 25.
Okay,
Mental math, not my thing.
just curious. Thank you, because I was involved in planning the research bill and setting up the guidelines for that, and so I just kind of was curious about how some of it panned out for you.
Yeah, it was
And
good.
we knew that 19 was a horrible year for everybody because they were learning and what all the various problems were, but
Honestly, it kind of helps us with a rapport with farmers. You know, if everything was gravy, then what do you have to talk about? We have a lot of things that we've done wrong. Oh, absolutely.
All right, just one last thing. Then, are you planting from the seed or are you planting from starter plants? Is it a matter, some varieties, starter plants, or everything's seed? And with all those varieties, I mean, are you hand doing it, or you got the old planter with the right?
Oh, heck no. Okay, I am not about handwork at all. We pay a lot of money for great machines, so we use them. And so we use drills or planters. We are planting from seed. Just think of the logistics of trying to put 1 million starter plants in the ground. It just doesn't work out. Our seed spacing is very similar to wheat. So every inch or half inch, you're going to be putting down a seed. So most of the time, we're putting it in a drill. And we're planting on 7.5-inch spacings, and then again, 1 million plants per acre.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So now, if you have some comments on House Bill 2168.
Yeah. So let me go. So this kind of ties into, what are the limitations as a processing facility? And some of the things that we've seen is a failure to separate fiber and grain, like the industrial hemp side from the cannabinoid side. It really makes our job a lot harder. Thankfully, the state fire marshal at our processing facility sees us as an ag processor, and so we've kind of had some of our guidelines change. But in terms from a farming perspective, we would love to be separated. How we grow, the types of seeds we're growing, the purpose of our seeds are so significantly different, they really cannot be grouped together. While they still are both considered industrial hemp, they are two very, very different types of industrial hemp. In saying that, there's a lack of acres that we can get here in Kansas. We would love to move our facility up to 24/7. We have a wait list through August for our product, and we cannot run our machines fast enough. In order to be able to put in a third shift, we have to have those acres to support it. And right now, we cannot get the acres, even with our successful proven track record. And most of our acres are going out of state for us to collect because farmers here in Kansas don't feel like it's a viable option under the current rulings that they're working with. An inability as a processor to entertain large contracts. We had a contract from a paper company in New York, and they needed 1 million pounds of product per year. Okay, now that is doable. We talked to a company out of the UK, they need 50 million tons per year. Those are things that we can't even have a conversation about because there's no way that we would be able to ramp up the acres that we would need even within a year and with every processor in the country. And so eventually we would like to be able to obtain those 2 million pound orders, but we can't do that without the confidence that we can secure those acres the following year. Because you have to think, farming, we're working 2024, 2025. These are the acres that we're talking about now and the contracts that we're working on. 2023 is already set in stone. We would love to see, and the feedback that we continue to get from farmers is the ability to try smaller acres. The average farm contracted size that we worked with, or not farm size, but the average field size that we worked with last year was 37.5 acres. And so farmers want to try this. They want to get in without betting their farm, which I respect. We don't want anybody having to close their doors off of a bad year with industrial hemp. So if you let them get in, get their feet wet, learn how to do this with us at 10, 15, 20 acres, then it's a lot more palatable to absorb a smaller license fee than the $1,200. Because when you break that down as a per acre charge, it's very expensive. And one of the things that I really think is important, you don't come with problems unless you can come with solutions. Otherwise, you're just complaining. And so these are some of the things that we've talked about and some of the things that have been. In July, we met with the KDA. Other industry leaders met with the KDA to kind of help facilitate a conversation of what the hemp industry needed in order to be successful moving forward. The KDA organized a meeting in December and had us come back, and it was really focused on fiber and grain production. The KDA led the discussion saying, what can we do and what are 3 to 4 main points that we can ask for in the next legislative session that we can see viably help the hemp industry move forward? So working alongside the KBI sat on my right, the state fire marshal was on my left, the KDA was in front of us, and industry leaders were in the room. We came up with the asks that are currently in Bill 2168. We would love to see a reduce of license fees to help stimulate the industry growth. I've spoken with all the agricultural processors in Kansas, and together we believe at the efficiency that our machines are capable of, we can support 7,000 acres here in Kansas easily. And that's at 2 shifts for us. So that's not even at 3 shifts. So it could potentially be more than that. The KDA's concern is funding. It's a license-based program in order to meet the fees, et cetera, that helps support their program. We had 61 licenses in 2022. Can your funding really get much tighter? 61 license at $1,200 a license is $73,000 and $73,200. In order to employ and have an operating budget of 3 people under $73,000, I'm curious if they've had supplemental income to help with that program. But let's just not even worry about that. If we reduce the licensing fee as we're asking in this bill, I firmly believe the license number is going to go up, and the more licenses, for the example that I used in my presentation, 300 licenses at $300, we're now looking at $90,000. There's a lot of play there, and that's an average of 23.3 acres per license. I don't think the funding should be as a big of concern as what it is, because I know the numbers will go up if given the opportunity, because we continue to see it year after year. I'd love to see performance-based testing. The KDA charges $225 per lot for testing. Our plants continue to have a track record of low to non-detectable THCs. We're growing for fiber. We're growing for insulation. We're growing for rope. At the end of the day, even if that plant had 0.2 or 0.3% THC, none of that is going into a consumable market. We are glorified hay grinders. If you come to our facility, our machine is grinding and separate and stripping plants. We understand that we need to stay within the THC limit. We respect that. Within that bill, 2168, we are providing basically approved varieties or varieties that have shown a track record for fiber production and low THC. So that would help the KDA in terms of reducing testing, et cetera, having to travel to all these farms as we hope the licenses will increase, which I'm hoping will help get more farmers in the door. The last thing that this is a very hot topic is allowing hemp for companion, poultry, livestock, and animal feed. The concern that we're hearing from the Department of Ag and other people within the legislative body is the oversight and safety of the consumers of these animals. The Kansas State University has done testing on this. There's more testing out there. And I guess what really is what I see as an important factor in this, we don't have to be the leaders in this particular space. Montana's already doing it, and they're doing it successfully. So is Tennessee, and so is Texas. So let's take these what we've put in 2168 mirrors what Montana is currently doing successfully, and they have 22,000 acres currently growing. So I think there's a lot of support, or there could be support for the hemp industry if 2168 passes. I know that I know there's lots of questions, but the fiber industry is here. You saw the potential of what we're just doing in our small community. So if you can multiply that throughout the state as we get these other 3 processors up and running 100%, and the potential for more processors and more acres within the state, that's economic dollars, that's tax dollars, and that's potentials for our farmers to diversify their farm and have another alternative to help carry it on to the next generation.
Thank you. Questions? Representative Blatz.
Thank you for that. Getting back to southeast Kansas, which is somewhat unique. What happens to THC when these genetically designed for fiber and grain, which I can remember in my days, we weren't corn country, but due to the seed and plant geneticists, they've made southeast Kansas, through their plant breeding, some pretty good corn country with some short season corn and wood. But having said that, we also get times when these plants are planted when we get a lot of rain and we can't harvest. From what I've been told, THC actually increases the longer that plant's in a field. Now, would these varieties that you have for fiber and grain have that same problem if, say, a delay of harvest was because of weather issues, extended weather? Would that increase to the point where it might exceed that and it would have to be destroyed, the crop would have to be destroyed? Or have you run across that?
Yes and no. If you can't get into the field, let's say your plants, you have a strange batch and it just happens to go hot. Because again, these varieties are bred not to do that. The Department of Ag has a remediation program. And so you can follow the remediation program. You don't have to immediately destroy your crop. There's other options for you as well. The hemp insurance is getting better, and what is an option? Obviously, a hot crop isn't covered under insurance for your particular instance, but you choose the variety that is going to help you be successful, and most of those aren't going to have the THC limits that are going to make it go hot.
Okay, thank you for that. But I mean, I think, to me, I think separating it is really a good call.
Yes.
I mean, I'm 100% behind that, but we still have that dark cloud looming back over of growing cannabis and with a lot of producers that and the license fee, and the fact that you've got to have a license to grow something is a little bit of a barrier to me. And I think, small acreage people that 25, 30, 40 acres might be willing to do this. But there's, also a lot, I feel, quite a bit of barriers that need to come down. Some of that can be done through education, but, particularly down in our country where we have a lot of particular weather issues. But I thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. And in saying that, do I understand there's a lot of barriers? Yes. But I understand the challenges that this plant provides. And I'm willing to work alongside law enforcement, state troopers, et cetera. I'm fine with licenses. Because of the sister plant that the marijuana and things like that, even though they're grown differently, it's quite different, helping regulate that, at least until it becomes more mainstream, I'm fine with that. And most of the producers that I'm talking with, even small acre producers, are not complaining about having to fill out like the 6-page application. It's really not that difficult.
Okay, other questions? No, anyone else? All right, Melissa, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for everything that we were able to see. And so I know, and good luck with more foreign visitors tomorrow. It's always exciting to have folks there. So thanks for the team to being here. Guys are, you're pretty loud back there, so you just sat there with your arms crossed, so, you see you smiling like that. So you like well, yes. So you guys like the muscle, huh? Getting close to her, is that it? All right. Sorry, those that are watching on TV or YouTube in the middle of the night, sorry you missed that. So, okay, so tomorrow we will have the hearing on House Bill 2168, continuing kind of the conversation from today, and then we'll have a dairy study by Aim Point on Thursday afternoon, so hope you can be here. No meeting scheduled for Friday, and then next week we will not have a meeting on Monday. We will now call the chair on Tuesday, but on Wednesday we will have 2 bill hearings. So with that, we are adjourned.